Welcome to Sip Wisely, where we celebrate bourbon in all of its forms, from the legends you love to the emerging gems, including Missouri whiskey. I'm Jonathan Lee, your guide on this flavorful journey. Together, we'll dive into the stories, craftsmanship, and flavors that make every pour something special. So, pour a glass, settle in, and let's sip wisely. Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Sip Wisely podcast. My name is Jonathan Lee, and I am extremely excited because for another episode, I am on location, just around the corner from our home base off Main Street in St. Charles, Missouri. Today, we are sitting down with Cardinal Sin Distillery, with one of their owners, Steve Herberhold. Now, if you've ever sat around having drinks with your neighbors and thought, hey, we should start a business, you're going to want to hear this episode. This isn't just a story about making booze. It is a story about what happens when an aerospace engineer, an orthopedic surgeon, and a marketing executive decide to team up. In this episode, Steve takes us through the science of their process, and being an engineer, he brings a serious level of mechanical aptitude and automation to the table. We're going to cover how they started winning gold medals with vodka before moving into the brown spirits we love like bourbon and rye. But listen closely for the story of the spirit called Starka. It is a barrel-aged clear spirit that is so unique the federal government actually didn't know how to categorize it. We get into a great story about why regulators refuse to let them print the words barreled and vodka on the same line of the label. We also discuss the champagne problems they are currently facing at their historic storefront and what is coming next for the distillery. It is a fascinating look at how a hobby between friends turned into a craft distillery with 9 distinct products. But before we pour our first glass, please take a moment to head over to our website and check us out. While you are on the St. Charles Bourbon Society's website, click the link to join our Facebook group to keep the conversation going. And as always, please support all of our local business partners who help keep this show running. All right, so now let's get into it. Here is my conversation with Steve Herberhold at Cardinal Sin Distillery. Enjoy. Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Sip Wisely podcast. I am again on location for this episode. Super excited to be just around the corner from our home base on Main Street, St. Charles, with Steve from Cardinal Sin Distillery. Welcome, Steve.
Welcome. Thank you.
All right, so I've been trying to say your last name like 6 times in a row, and I know I'm going to butcher it now that I hit record. So I'm going to let people, I'm going to have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, one of the owners of this distillery, and we'll kind of go from there.
Right. My name is Steve Herberhold. Yes, I'm one of the owners. There's 2 other owners. They're partners. We're all neighbors. So they were sitting around, of course, drinking one night, decided that they wanted to distill spirits, and ended up asking me. We formed a partnership, and we've been doing this since 2010, essentially.
Very cool. Now, I have neighbors listening to the show, so hey, neighbors, just saying, we drink around every once in a while. We could come up with something. Very cool. So the 3 of you kind of just got together, having drinks, came up with an idea, and you decided to start a distillery. What goes into that?
So, interestingly enough, I've been kind of entrepreneurial my whole career. Even though I started off McDonnell Douglas, I'm an aerospace engineer, so 10 years there. Then I started doing small business type stuff. And Greg Dieters, my one partner, Bill Shore, the other partner, they've been in their traditional careers most of their life. Bill's an orthopedic surgeon. Greg owns a marketing research firm in the ag industry. So they've been doing the same things, and I think they were looking for something different to do. Now, we were all still working full time, and they still are, but this was an outlet that they had to maybe enjoy spirits. They were beer and wine guys and also vodka guys, whereas I was a whiskey guy. So maybe that's why they brought me in. That, and I think I have some mechanical aptitude. So that's kind of how it all started. And yes, to your point, there's quite a bit of work that goes on trying to figure out the name, figure out where you're going to actually produce product, what kind of products you're going to produce, things like that. And that's, I think it took us 6, 7, 8 months to kind of work through all of that. Thankfully, Bill does all the paperwork, and he deals with the government side of things, and he got us going. And we eventually found our first space over there that you had visited.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not too far from where we are now, about probably 2 miles, so give or take. It was a nice little warehouse, storefront kind of thing. I mean, it looked like a good place to get started, but where you are now is got to be just prime. I mean, it's a fantastic little house.
Yeah, so I have to admit that we own this space now, whereas over there we rented. And there were a few nights I woke up, in a cold sweat thinking, we're spending a lot of money on this little storefront, if you will. Mm-hmm. But it's been a blessing. I kind of wish that we had taken this step long ago. Again, we've been doing it since 2010. So we've been here for 2 years, and the foot traffic that we get in here far surpasses what we have over there. We're not distilling here yet, so we were thinking ahead, and we barreled and bottled a lot of product that's in inventory and storage, so we could continue to operate here, because we knew we were looking to potentially build a new space off the back of this old house right here, which is our storefront. Okay. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Gotcha. Okay. So that brings us to present. Let's go back to the beginning there a little bit. So, they brought you in because you liked whiskey, but they had their own spirits first, right? So let's talk about that first distill of that vodka.
Sure. So interestingly enough, we use a 2-row malted barley and corn combination. In our first formulas were a little bit too heavy on the barley, and we actually backed that down. So we have a thing called 23-10-7. That's a formula we use. It doesn't mean anything to anybody else, but that's what we started with. And then, we ended up going out and entering competitions, both internationally and domestically, and we got gold medals for those, which I don't want to say we were surprised, but you don't know what you're going to come across when you're producing product. And we do try to make high quality products. So it's a batch process that we do. Mm-hmm. So I can control the inputs and the outputs and have some repeatability, if you will. So that's where we started. There's a lot of vodkas on walls in stores. Yeah. And distilleries can't survive on vodka alone. So then we ended up looking into producing brown spirits, if you will.
Okay. Before you got to that, you got to Starka, right? Yes. So tell me a little bit about Starka.
Yes. So Starka is a barrel-aged vodka. We're the first in the U.S. to produce that. So if you think about vodka, there are some requirements to produce it. It has to be 190 proof, what you collect off the still, the distillate, and it's got to be clear. So when we ended up producing Starka, which is a barrel-aged product, we're taking our distillate, which is very clean, again, vodka. We're putting it in a new American white oak barrel with a number 4 char, just like you see cracked open right there, and we're aging it. So it becomes a brown spirit. All the color, all the flavor comes from the barrel alone for the most part, because, again, vodka's a grain-neutral spirit, whereas whiskeys and bourbons, and I don't mean to jump ahead, but they tend to have some flavor of their own based on the distillation process. So that was a very unique product. Interestingly enough, when we first put it in the market, the government didn't know how to categorize it.
Really?
Yeah, they were like, Starka, what is this? And they're very particular about what's put on the label itself, front and back. They would not let us use the term vodka on that bottle initially because the spirit was amber in color, and vodkas have to be clear. Bill eventually worked with them, and they allowed us to use the term barreled vodka on the front of the bottle, so now people have some idea of what it is. But interestingly enough, they wouldn't let us use the word barreled and vodka on the same line. The word barreled has to be above the word vodka.
Really?
That's kind of the...
Wow.
Again, thankfully, Bill handles all that stuff.
Nitpicking to death there.
Yes. So it's a very clean spirit, 90 proof, and it just allows the characteristics of the grain to come through without... and letting the barrel actually impart its flavors without too much of the grain impacting the final flavor profile, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I honestly have not had Starka before. I'm not a vodka person, but it's barrel aged, so maybe I could just pretend that it's actually whiskey. And
when you smell it and taste it, you will actually think it's more of a whiskey.
Really? Yes. The oak imparts that much of.
Do you want to smell a little bit right now?
Sure.
I'll pour it out for you.
Sure,
and let
sure.
You smell some. And
Okay.
that way you can get some sense of.
It's not the tasting episode, but we got to smell it. This is for research purposes only.
There you go. So swirl that around. And
Okay, so we got a little bit of Starka. Yeah, okay. I definitely get the hints of what a whiskey would have. That'd be the oak flavor, the char even. But then you get a little bit of the ethanol coming through from the vodka taste as well.
Sure.
Wow, okay.
We do actually filter our distillate before it is either bottled or put into a barrel through an activated carbon bed. For our brown spirits, we filter through a column one time. For our clear spirits, our vodka, we filter twice. So it does clean the spirit up a little bit. Some of those larger undesirable molecules that make it through the distillation process.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. The color is just amazing. How much of that char from that barrel comes through and just says. I do know when I first learned about whiskey and bourbon, and I was also too amazed that the distillate is clear, and just the amount that much color comes from the barrel itself. And I talk to more and more people that are not whiskey drinkers, and a lot of them listen to the show, and they're like, "You got to help people explain some of these things because I don't know what this stuff means." When you say char, what does it mean? And so. Let's go ahead and ask that now. When you put that in a char, what char is it? Char 4 you said, or
yes,
char 4? Okay.
Yeah. So the reason I cut a barrel open was so people could see what the inside looks like. We went down to McGinnis when we received our first barrels. Excuse me. We saw how they were made. I have an understanding of that, but most people don't. Mm-hmm. What did surprise me is I was expecting to see a much thicker burn, if you will. You think about a fire, a campfire, and the wood's got these big, thick charcoal looks to them. So obviously the char level 1, 2, 3, and 4 is derived by the thickness in millimeters. So 4 millimeters is not that thick.
Yeah, and it equates to the length of time in which the fire is going, right?
Correct.
So they put a barrel over a flame. The flame, if it's char 1, it's very, I don't know what the timing is, but it's very little, which means you just can go almost like a toast-ish, but it's not because toasting is something different. But that's the reason why I don't explain these things. But yeah, so char 4 is the highest you can go. Correct. And so it's in theory going to impart the most amount of flavor.
It can, correct, yes. So you get that interaction with the carbon, if you will, kind of like an activated carbon, what will help clean up some of the undesirable components of the distillate that do make it through the distillation process.
Okay. That's, wow. I tell you, every time I do an episode, I just learn more and more. I mean, I do this selfishly because I do like learning that process and the scientists behind this thing here. So you start off... Your partners say, we're going to do vodka because that's what we drink. They make it. They get gold medals. It's fantastic. You're finally like, all right, great. You got gold medals in your product. Let's now make ours.
Right.
Let's talk about that process of that switch over or the addition of a true brown spirit.
So, excuse me, interestingly enough, excuse me, Greg and Bill were wine and beer drinkers. Mm-hmm. And they also like vodka. So, and I was an amber spirit drinker. When we produced vodka, I kind of migrated to the clear spirit, okay, which makes sense for making it. And I started drinking gin and tonics and whatnot.
Got ginger ale product.
And if you think about it, I had actually started off back. I'm 62, so if legally drinking at 21, I've been drinking for 40 some years. But if you consider, probably I drank 16, 17-year-old, Jack Daniels, Jim Beam, things like that. Yep. Whereas those guys really weren't into the whiskey side of it. But so I kind of migrated to the vodka. They started enjoying the vodka, but then we started to get into the Starka, and then they really liked the amber spirits. And I think that we all now kind of focus on the amber spirit side of it. Not that I don't still drink our vodka, and I'm sure they do too. But you're probably going to find them with a Manhattan or an old-fashioned in their hand more than a gin and tonic, I suspect.
Very good. So... from going from a mash bill that's vodka related to a mash bill that's whiskey related, what was that process for you guys?
So Greg, growing up on a dairy farm in Quincy, Illinois, I think he's the youngest of 10 kids, okay?
Wow.
He kind of specializes in our grain selection and our mash bills. Not that we don't all coordinate, but the one nice thing about us is me being an engineer, Greg having a marketing and a farming background, and Bill being a surgeon, he's got a chemistry background. We all have our strong suits, and I'm not going to necessarily go into Greg's swim lane when he starts talking about mash bills. I'm going to have faith that he's going to come up with something that we prefer, not that we don't all taste it. Conversely, he's going to know that when I go to build a piece of equipment and put it into operation, that we're going to have inputs and outputs are the same. Yeah. So we let Greg and Bill, for the most part, focus on the mash bill side of it. On our bourbon, which I know that's the name of your organization here, we're at about 70% corn, and then a little bit higher on the barley, I think 20, and then 10 on rye. So we do a combination, a mix, if you will. And of course, new American white oak barrel, 2+ years, all the good stuff to characterize it as a bourbon. And then we've eventually migrated into some of the other whiskeys. So we've got a single malt and we have a rye. I'm sure you've heard the term, all bourbons are whiskey. Not all whiskeys are bourbon. So we've expanded into some of the other whiskey products. Our rye is I think we're at 70 on the rye with a probably equal split between barley and corn. Yeah. Okay. And our barleys are single malts, essentially 100% barley. So circling back around to answer your question, we've gone through some variations of mash bills, but we've largely stuck with what we've ended up using the most recent iterations of all of our distillations. You put something into a barrel and you have to be patient.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the biggest difference, right, between vodka and, well, maybe not barrel-aged vodka, but, I mean, still then, you're not waiting however long to get out the product and see.
So we don't wait as long on our Starka product as we do as other products. Now, part of the reason being that because we're using a neutral spirit that's very clean, we don't believe that it has to necessarily be in the barrel as long before we bottle it. So our Starka is at about 2 years right now. I mean, to be fair, we did start bottling it initially at 6 months, and we've continued to sell. We've sold out all the 6-month, all the 12-month. Now we're at 2 year is a little over 2 year now because we started barreling some before we left our old location. Our oldest product is called Barrel 14, and it's Starka, and it is now at 11 years old, I think. We had a barrel that we opened up when we moved here was 9 years for Starka. That was our introductory product here at the new location. So our barrel range right now, age-wise, is anywhere from a little over 2 years up to now on that 14, about 11 years.
What's been the response? Obviously, you got gold medals for the vodka. What's been the response to the bourbons and whiskeys?
It's been actually very good. One of the things we do is we focus on not trying to do too much. I mean, we actually have 9 products that we've developed over the course of 15 years. The one vodka, the Starka, and then multiple whiskeys, some that are including flavored whiskeys. Yeah. And so we try to focus on consistency. My expertise is in the process and production. So I want to make sure that my inputs, whatever I bring in, I'm going to output the same. Now, the inputs are not always the same. Why? Because a grain today is not going to be the same as a grain 4 years from now. The ground changes, weather, whatnot. Same with barrels. Barrels come from trees, and there's some variation there. So I want to try to minimize any disruption to the quality and the consistency of our product by making sure the process that we use for distillation is the same. So I use actually quite a bit of automation on my stills, which a lot of people don't do. And we do a batch process. So I'm not doing, continual where you're dumping in product and then it's kicking out. I'm doing 40 gallons at a time. Okay. And then I'm collecting it, getting rid of the heads and the tails. So one of the things that we do with when we used to do tours at our old place, and then we'll pick that up again, is we actually let people smell heads and tails and hearts and let them understand the process from beginning to end.
That's very, I've had the opportunity to do that. That's pretty amazing, the difference between those three. Sure, it's like this is all the same batch, but it's where it is in the process is pretty cool. Yeah.
And my cousin works for us, and he's a woodworker, so up on the wall behind me is a listing of what makes up heads and tails and hearts from a chemical perspective. So you can see why they do have different aromatic characteristics, and also characteristics that tend to give you a headache or a hangover if you imbibe in a lot of them. And we don't want to allow people to have those components that are left in there, so we make sure, like all good distillers, they cut those out.
Yeah. So you got 9 products, and it just did jar my memory of where I wanted to go.
Sure.
So to rehash where my brain skipped out on me, they're not all whiskeys are bourbons, and not all bourbons are Missouri bourbons. Are one of your 9 products a Missouri bourbon?
No, we've not participated in that. And I give all those guys who have worked hard to get that in place, kudos to them. One of the challenges that we've had is because we all work full time, we've kind of focused on just staying with our core right now. That doesn't mean we won't. Again, I got to give, I know Dave and the guys out at Wood Hat and all them have put forth a lot of effort to get that pushed through the Missouri government and approved and all that. So, but we have not done anything with that yet.
I mean, yeah, and so those who are unsure, well, it's Missouri corn. Right. It basically just specifies all the different aspects of bourbon has to be done here in Missouri, that kind of thing. And it's not unusual for distillers to not have, because it makes it, I don't know, harder if that's the case, or to have more collaboration or whatever. But I agree with you. Sticking with what you know it's doing well. Don't worry about necessarily having the name in front of it, I guess. But
yeah, and back on the point about doing what we do well, with a certain, we do this honestly for fun. This is not, again, our day jobs. This is not putting food on our table, and that gives us some flexibility to do what we want. Yeah. We're no private investors. It's just us. It's not private equity or anything like that. And we've set out early on to make sure that we were having fun with this. We don't want to harm any personal relationships. We don't want to take away too much time from our families, which probably it's happened because, in reality, running this place and producing and bottling and having fun is part of what we do. But I've lost my train of thought now. We both had that happen.
No, I think we're kind of, and I wasn't speaking to the fact, I didn't ask the question because I was like, oh, well, you have to have a Missouri. I think it's important to know what you want to produce and why you want to produce it. And I think that's what you're just getting at.
Yes.
And I think that's key there. And it's not about necessarily it being one way or another. It's just about this is where the direction we want to go right now, and focus on that. And I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yes. And we were admittedly slow to the bourbon side of the equation. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the last product aside from one of our flavored products that we introduced.
Yeah. So you mentioned, you're doing this for fun. It's not necessarily putting food on the table, taking all that like that. So for those that are listening, it's, first of the month be around the weekend-ish. So if you listen to your neighbors, I want to start my own business. What are some struggles you've had? I mean, it doesn't sound like you've had a lot. You started right off, you guys worked well together, you have basically the 3 important pieces together to build this, and you start 3 years out of the gate getting gold medals. So, but what's been some struggles?
Sure. Well, I mean, finding a place to produce product, coming up with a name, that's always a little bit of a struggle, finding the proper equipment, and then actually getting the mash bills together and then operating that equipment. So the name. I have a spreadsheet that probably has 200 names on it. Seriously, we'd all throw out names or whatever. And then one day Bill calls me and he goes, I've got the name. I'm like, okay, we've heard this before. He goes, Cardinal Sin. And I kind of froze. I'm like, that's a good name. Okay. And I think he did the same thing with Greg, and we finally, had chosen a name. And then looking around, Greg has some relationships with some real estate people, and he found that space for us. And yes, we had to then go and get it built out appropriately, all the rules and regulations. Again, thanks to Bill for doing all the paperwork. Yeah. Finding the equipment, getting that in here, getting it set up. And then Bill and Greg actually went up to, I think it was Michigan State or the University of Michigan does a class. I couldn't make it, but they went up and actually went through the process of distillation. So they at least had, their hands on doing that once or twice with them. And I think Bill probably back in in college at Purdue when he was getting his degree for chemistry. Probably did a little bit of distillation.
The Boilermaker,
right. Yeah, exactly. Myself, I had not. So, getting all that stuff in play. And then I remember the first time we fired the still up, and I'm sitting there with pen and paper, and I'm documenting all the temperatures and everything, and just making sure that, it's working. But then getting a bottle size chosen, getting a label design chosen.
Yeah.
And then deciding on, what's going to go into the product and how it's going to look. And it took time to make that all happen. But fortunately, the three of us all worked very well together. And there was no major, oh, that's a silly idea, let's not do that. And it came together. And then right now, the challenges are making sure that you have product in stock. Mm-hmm. I promised these guys I would never run out of product. It happened one time. I was 5 days late on something, and it didn't harm us. But I've always tried to stay ahead of the game with making sure we had product available. So sometimes you have to do some jockeying around. Yeah. I've only got 2 stills, and you just got to be proactive with some of that stuff.
Yeah, that's very neat. Yeah, I mean it's good. It's refreshing to hear that not everything goes as smooth as what it may sound, right? It's not always an Instagram story where all you see is the good stuff, right? And even though it sounds like it all worked out really well, you have 3 different distinct jobs. You don't go into one space, but there are some common things that have to be decided on, like the name, the bottle, the label,
sure.
And that can be tough because I'm sure, and it didn't sound like it happened in your cases, but there'd be some headstrong people going, no, this has got to be, that kind of thing. So I think that's pretty cool how it worked out. So where is Cardinal Sin going next? Don't give away any secrets, but
sure.
what's coming up that we should?
So we're in process now of trying to get the space right behind us on our property set up for distillation. So we are legally categorized as a craft distillery here in downtown St. Charles, but I can't distill in this space right now because I'm not sprinklered. I've got international fire code requirements that I have to abide by. And at our old space, I could distill because they were using IFC 2016 or something like that. So it didn't require sprinkler systems. I could have barrels over there. We have limitations over here. So right now we're in process of getting quotes and bids to trench all the way out to Main Street here. Dig up Main Street.
Oh, man.
All the way to the space and back to run water for a sprinkler system and then run production water and sewer. And so that's really where we're at right now because at some point in the future, we are going to run out of product that we have in storage. We were very deliberately proactive about making sure we had put enough product in storage based on prior sales. Well, one of the challenges we have here, and it's a Champagne problem, is the sales that we're doing here versus our old place, it far surpasses where we're at because of the foot traffic and all the activity and the events they have going on here.
Yeah, so, there's not many days that this Main Street's not busy.
Correct.
Yeah. Good. Well, it's a good problem to have. Like you said, it's a Champagne problem. And so you guys, I can't imagine permits go fast. So, do you have a time frame for?
Yeah, I've met with the city. They've come out on site here, and they're very supportive of our business here. That's one thing I have to give them kudos for, and I have to give them kudos for all of the activities that they plan up and down Main Street here. So I'm hoping that sometime in spring we will be potentially up and running, possibly using the space that we have already back there right now versus building new, just to get us going and then seeing where we go from there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's exciting because that's my area.
Yeah.
And I've kind of had to sit on my hands and wait. Not that I don't participate here, but the sales side of it and whatnot up front here is not necessarily where I would prefer to be.
Yeah. All right. So we've come kind of toward the end of our time. 2 things we'll have to cover. One, we haven't really talked about the store much at all. Yes. How often you're open, when you're open, what can they do here? We know tours are coming, right. That kind of thing. And then we're going to talk about kind of what we're going to do in the tasting episode. So let's talk about this beautiful storefront.
Right. So we're open Wednesday through Sunday. Okay. Open at noon. And on Wednesday and Thursday, we close at 5. On Friday and Saturday, we close at 7. And then on Sunday, we close at 5. Okay. So we have our front room here, and then we also have that space over there that's got the big long bar on it. And you can come in and you can do tastings. You can do 4 of 8 for $10. Okay. You can do all 8 for $16. And then our VIP is all 8 plus our reserve, and you get a Glencairn or rocks glass for $25.
Okay. Sign me up.
So yeah, and then we also have pre-made drinks here that we make that you can take with you. They're 8 ounces. They have 2 ounces of alcohol. They're a bit on the sweet side, but we have a whiskey blackberry lemonade, a cranberry ginger vodka mule, and a whiskey peach tea shanty. And then we also do a seasonal. Coming into the wintertime here now, we'll warm up one of our drinks, and you can take that with you.
Very cool. Very nice. And so leading into the next episode, our tasting episode, let's let folks know kind of an idea of what we're going to be tasting with another either employee or another partner.
Most likely, yes.
Yeah. And so this may change it a little bit, but most likely we're going to be tasting what?
So certainly, since this is a bourbon-related activity, we'd be looking at our bourbon, our Lust product, okay. But we'd also be looking at our other traditional products. We have our single malt, we have our rye, okay. The Starka, which is an amber product, and then our 3 flavored products. 2 of those are a bit on the sweeter side. It's our peach pecan and our OMG brown sugar whiskey. Okay. And then our final product is called Wrath, and that's our Pride whiskey, and each bottle has a cinnamon stick and a chili pepper in it. Ooh. So if you remember Red Hot chewing gum growing up, or Big Red chewing gum,
Big Red.
Red Hots, that's kind of what you get with that.
Okay. Very nice. And so those that listen, they're in a tradition that once they hear the first episode, they hear the product and they're going to go get one or maybe all 8 of them. Who knows? Outside of coming to the store, are there other places they can pick up your product? Yeah,
we are in some Total Wines and we're in some Fresh Times. But not all products are in those. So the store is the best location. You had asked earlier about some of the challenges. Mm-hmm. Distribution can be a challenge.
Yeah, I bet.
We've gone through multiple distribution channels before, and actually coming over here to this smaller space has brought us back around to the craft side, and we're actually just focusing on selling out of here right now. It's a lot more fun than trying to take on the world, honestly.
I bet. Yeah. Okay, well then stop by, come by Wednesday through Sunday. Times are on the website, or you can go back and hit replay and hear the times that Steve said. Come check them out, get a tasting, get yourself a Glencairn for $25 and taste all their product. And then buy the bottle you like before the 15th of December, and you'll get to try it with us.
Excellent.
All right. Well, Steve, I appreciate your time. I've been email tagging with Steve for the last couple months, and I seem like, hey, I got this opportunity. You got 12 hours. Can you decide now? So he's been super helpful and super flexible, and so I'm so grateful for you to sit down and chat and share all about Cardinal Sin.
Well, thank you for actually putting your organization together and including us.
Absolutely. And that wraps up our conversation for today. A huge thank you to Steve Herberhold for welcoming us in to the Cardinal Sin Distillery and sharing his time and his spirits with us. There was so much to take away from that discussion, but 3 things really stuck with me. First, I just love the dynamic between the 3 partners. It is rare to see an aerospace engineer, an orthopedic surgeon, and a marketing executive take their specific swim lanes from mechanical aptitude to chemistry to grain selection and combine them so effectively to create a product line. Second, the story about Starka. It is wild to think that they produced a spirit so unique that the federal government didn't know how to categorize it. The fact that regulators wouldn't let them print the words barreled and vodka on the same line of the label is a perfect example of the red tape craft distillers have to navigate. And finally, their champagne problems. It is great to hear that their foot traffic on Main Street is doing so well that they are actually running low on inventory. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing them dig up the street to get that new production facility running so they can keep those shelves stocked. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Missouri spirits, make sure to head over to our website to learn more about the St. Charles Bourbon Society. You can find out how to become a member of our society and discover the many ways that we are helping you learn about bourbon and local Missouri spirits. Don't forget to stop by Cardinal Sin on Main Street, try a flight, grab a bottle, and tell them Sip Wisely sent you. And don't forget to pick up a bottle to get ready for that tasting episode coming down. Speaking of which, until then, sip local, sip together, but most importantly, sip wisely. Thank you for tuning in to the Sip Wisely podcast. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button to get the latest episodes. Don't forget to visit our website at stcharlesbourbonsociety.com for the show notes. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please share them on social media. Follow us on all platforms by searching for St. Charles Bourbon Society. Our goal is to equip you with the knowledge to sip wisely. Cheers.